I've had this manager or leader title for years. I know what I'm doing. And something I've learned the hard way is that it's impossible, absolutely impossible for me as a leader to have the answers. Short-paced online tools, great for gathering knowledge, great for getting some new input and stimulus, but is that really sticky? Will it change your behaviors? Will that help you learn how to learn?
Love it, like we need to learn how to unlearn all the time. What are the key skills that you think are really key for people to stay ahead of the curve?
I'm going to mention 3 meta skills, and it's something you have to constantly train your adaptability muscle. It's a really hard muscle to train. In about 15 years, 14% of the jobs we see today will be eliminated because of.
Is the education system broken?
Oh, I love that question. I have one very clear answer to that, and that is yes. And I know it's a quite harsh answer to give. But why I'm saying so is because if you just look at the upskilling needs of today. So I read this report from the Organization of Cooperation and Organizational Development, and according to that report, and this is an old report already, it's from 2019, pre-pandemic, pre-generative AI. According to that report, in about 15 years, 14% of the jobs we see today will be eliminated because of automation. And 32% of the jobs will be completely transformed. So if we just think about that, and then we also think about the fact that the skills we learn today, according to a Harvard study, they only have a half-life of 5 years. And skills in the tech field have a half-life of 2.5 years.
Oh.
So knowing this, and then we put it into the context of more kind of traditional adult education. You enter the university. What happens when you graduate? Yes, of course, you can write, academic text, and you have probably gotten a lot of great questions to ask and critical thinking. But what are the skills you actually have that you can put in use? The other thing that makes me say yes to that question is the fact that it's not only about understanding that we are in a huge need of reskilling and upskilling, but it's also understanding that, as I said, the skills we have, they go obsolete. So it's this constant learning. And I don't think that the traditional universities can answer to that, and the traditional education system can answer to that. So I think it's twofolded. The organizations, they have to take responsibility of the reskilling and the upskilling. And if we look at an OECD report, millions of people needs to completely reskill. Not only upskill, but actually completely reskill.
So so things are moving so fast, and the need for reskill and upskill is not at the same speed, right? And what do you think are the main reasons for that gap?
Yeah, I think, just a few years ago, it was, of course, machine learning. We could see automation already. And these are taking further leaps now. So if we think about generative AI and how that will impact certain areas where we did not even foresee an impact. Think about copywriting. Think about motion design. These are roles and skills, crafts that can very easily be replaced. And also what happens so that's the knowledge workers, but what happens with also other more mundane tasks that you can actually replace. with generative AI and more advanced AI. So this is all putting a huge stress on this gap, and the gap is growing.
And in terms of learning, what has changed, let's say, even since the pandemic?
Yeah, a lot has changed, actually, and I would say to the better. So I think during the pandemic, we were forced to teach, but also to learn in a different way. You know, just you suddenly, from the equation of learning, you remove the classroom setting. And in a good way, you take what you teach in a normal setting and you completely adapt that to an online setting. That's when it works. That's when you can create magic, and you can create magical learning journeys for the students. But you have to understand that you can't just take the same as you did in the classroom and try to replicate that in an online setting. Because we are humans. When we meet in a group and we see each other and we can read each other's body language, we actually learn in that setting of being with others. When it's not working is, of course, when you take and just try to replicate, or when you when the learning stimulus is really outside and in. Because I don't think that is sticky. Think about all these the short-paced online tools. Great for gathering knowledge, great for getting some new input and stimulus, but is that really sticky? Will that stick? Will it change your behaviors? Will that help you learn how to learn?
We are putting countless hours into bringing you the best guests and content. And we want to continue to make this channel bigger so that you can have access to even better content. And you can play an important role by doing something really simple. Hit that subscribe button. Let's go back to the conversation. And what didn't change, actually? I mean, we all think about everything is changing, but then maybe there's things in the learning that didn't change. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's still a huge, and I fully respect that. I think there's still a huge need and want for academic qualifications. Of course, it's something that's really recognized. So I don't think that changed, and I think that is still a part of the traditional education, and to go through that pathway, that hasn't changed. Of course, it still remains. We still have our huge red brick universities, but I see a quite polarized educational market today, where we have these more traditional players, and then you have the players that are really challenging the educational market, and I'm allowed to be in that challenging part of the educational market.
And tell us more about what's happening in that area of the players that are pushing the envelope and more challenging what's happening. Tell us more what's happening.
Yeah, I think it's really like slightly onto the point that we discussed earlier about the skills.
Yeah.
What are we actually learning? And you know, when I mentioned about the half-life of skills and the tech skills, it's so tempting. It's so tempting to just look at, oh, I want to become a really skilled UX designer. And okay, you get those skills and you graduate onto the world, and congratulations, probably things will go great. But what I would like to emphasize is actually the meta skills we talk about. Because these are skills that are transferable into the new, into the unknown, regardless of what will come. And these are also skills that AI actually can't replace. So that's where I want us to push education more, also push ourselves more on what are we learning and why are we actually learning? For what purpose and for what kind of future are we learning?
I think you said like you want to push. Maybe you can even share what has been your experience as a leader in terms of like in this transformation journey.
Yeah. Yes, and I have to say that I'm really thankful for my journey.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been easy. Not at all. It's been a challenging learning being a leader. And I come from a culture setting that's quite traditional from Finland, and also worked with in companies, amazing organization, but still embodying a quite traditional hierarchical leadership skill. Where in a way, and I have to admit, I've been this person as well, when you become a leader, so it's amazing, it's thrilling, you feel the power, but at the same time you feel the need to actually have answers. And something I've learned the hard way is that it's impossible, absolutely impossible for me as a leader to have the answers. People might come to me wanting answers and wanting clarity, but I have to give this another way. And this is something I've learned at Hyper Island. Because the world is changing so fast. Most of the people I'm working with, they have skills I absolutely do not possess at all. So how do I then lead in that kind of context? And that is where these meta skills kick in. How quickly can I adapt? How quickly can I adapt to, as a leader, to different needs? How quickly can I adapt to people with completely different skills, competencies, but also human needs? And can I make sense of the uncertain?
Yeah, and even today in a world where, so much is changing,
yes.
Leaders cannot have the answers.
No.
But so they need to go, it's a big change from the previous way of leading to I have the answers to now I don't have the answer, but I'm able to enable the teams to find the answers and to navigate the uncertainty.
Yes, exactly. And you said a really important word just now, enablement.
Yes.
And I think that is key. And how do we enable other people? And what are the skills we as leaders need to have to be able to do that? And that also comes with the need of understanding that the workforce we have today is probably not sufficient for tomorrow. So how do we enable people to also grow and step into the new? Because otherwise they will become obsolete.
Exactly.
And that's really expensive for organizations as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and I think maybe it would be nice to understand, there's a gap, and we see there's many people struggling because of the pace of change. Yeah. Maybe do you have any story in Hyper Island of any client that you work that went from, struggling to thrive?
Yes, I do have, and it's actually one of those, most amazing moments we go through when we have a client that sits with their pain is so visible. And I can talk about one particular that is really close to my heart. And it's a bank up in the Nordics, a huge bank, and they knew that they were facing disruption. This was a few years ago, and the European banking market was changing, and they knew that we are very old school, we have a low degree of innovation and creativity, and we have a very hierarchical leadership style. So you could see it, you could see the pain in the top management team, knowing that there's a vast group of people that needs to actually work and lead in a different way. And I started to work with this group, and the resistance in the beginning and the pushback, I don't need that. I've been doing this for years. I've had this manager or leader title for years. I know what I'm doing. And the unwillingness to change is usually quite high in us people in general.
Yeah.
But then how we work is that we introduce tools and frameworks. And it's not only that. We also push people to actually in togetherness, because this has to happen in groups. Talk about and reflect through these tools. Then go out into the organization, force them to actually try out some of these with their teams. It can be something very simple. But usually it starts with that nudge. And I remember particularly this leader who had been in the company for 15 years, in the same role for 10, very reluctant to change, very nearing his retirement. But he actually, he was very not willing to lean in the beginning. But he did, and he came out on the outside, so to say on the outside of the program as a different person. And he could even put words on that. And it's powerful when you have this group of leaders standing in a circle, ready to check out from the program, and then one of the leaders that were most reluctant actually says, "It feels like I've gone to church and I see something new." And it sounds crazy, definitely. But you see that change also in his eyes, and you see how he managed to actually go through a restructuring of his part of the organization in a much more successful way than he would have done without daring to try other things.
I love that story. Do you know what was the moment that was the shift?
Yes. It was when he actually decided, okay, I might not believe this, but I'm going to try. When he pushed himself to a space that was really uncomfortable. We have our comfort zone, we have a stretch zone. I think he was almost in his danger zone, trying something that he felt very uncomfortable doing with his team. But actually showing, in that sense, also vulnerability with his team, and realizing that, oh, I actually got a different outcome. That is when it
Well, I love that so much. And I think that there's been a pattern in my conversations with my previous guests, the need for leaders to lean more to discomfort,
yes.
to not have all the answers, to be more vulnerable. And as you said, what I love is about having conversations and togetherness and find solutions. I love that example.
Yeah, thank you.
Really good. Now, okay, we understand there's a gap, but where do you see, if we look at the future of work, where do you see this, let's say, AI working together with the continuous progress of human development?
Yeah, a lot of people are afraid of what's coming, and I completely understand that fear. It's human. But I see so much potential. And I really hope that we can see a future where we all have our own AI co-pilots.
Yeah.
Actually enabling us as humans to do an even better job. Enabling us to use our human skills for a better outcome. I was just thinking about lawyers, for example, because that's such typical if we talk about traditional education. And you immerse yourself in so much literature. And then at the end, how do you keep yourself up to date as well? Because it's not only what you've read, you constantly have to learn more. But imagine using AI to help you harvest and also summarize, to help you, to guide you. It shouldn't make decisions for us as humans, but to use that as your co-pilot in actually being better at what you are already good at. So I think this is a simple way. Then I think when we start to see new versions, we will probably see completely new ways of working together with AI. But I think that question of yours, working together, that's key. Not against. And not being afraid of the fact that yes, it will replace some jobs. It will replace some of the tasks we do today. But being able to embrace that. I know it's hard.
Yeah, but I love the word. It's two words that I love what you said. One is about embracing, and also see it as I love co-pilot.
Yes.
So that you are able to enable to do a better job yourself.
Yeah.
And what do you see are now, what is going to change in terms of learning with AI?
Yeah. I think some of the the fundamentals now I talk about Hyper Island and our universe and our look at learning. I don't think our universe will change that much. I think it's even more important to look at learning through our lens. And that means that we are learning how to learn. It's not that, yes, you need to have a certain level of data literacy. I think that's really important because that helps you with your curiosity towards the new. And that helps you to prototype and test and create MVPs. But I also think that that's not enough. You also have to have the skills how to constantly learn, how to unlearn and how to relearn. So that will, in my opinion, that should absolutely not change. We should put more emphasis on that.
Love it. Like we need to learn how to unlearn all the time.
Yeah.
And
let go.
And let go.
Yeah.
Which is so difficult.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. And I know it. Well, at Hyper Island, you have a different way of approaching learning. Yeah. What can we learn with the Hyper Island way?
I think a few things. I think what we can learn through the Hyper Island way is to actually understand the importance of learning in teams, of the importance of using reflection when we learn. And I have to admit, this is something I definitely struggle with. But I have, through my years, I've been at Hyper Island for 6 years, and it takes practice. It really takes practice to think about, what did I just experience? How did that experience feel? How did I react? What did I learn? What can I use next time when I'm facing the same challenge or trying to solve a problem or trying to learn something new? What did I go through? And that's how actually we constantly evolve. So having these certain routines and rituals to learning as well, that's really important. Really fostering curiosity. And I think we have certain tools to help people do that, because it's the unknown is scary. It requires us to lean in and to know how to actually explore the unknown, and we do that very much hands-on. So it's really about learning by doing. So to, as I said, to prototype, to test. We can have a group of leaders sitting together and creating an MVP of something. And it's of course not something they would use in their daily lives, but it's the mindset. It's the mindset of daring to try and test.
I love it. So good. Yeah. So it's when there's so much happening outside, it's about helping people to go inside, to go to reflect, to work more on their self-awareness, right? And then provoke more curiosity, so that you experiment more, right? And you learn and prototype. So good. But you started with a very, the numbers that you shared, it's like 40% of the jobs are going to be replaced in the future. Now, if we look at then what are the key skills that you think are really key for people to stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah, and I'm going to mention 3 meta skills.
Yeah.
And the one skill I really believe is important, and I think we talked about this as well, about the adaptability. And it's something you have to constantly train, your adaptability muscle. It's a really hard muscle to train. Another one is resilience. And I think I also want to pause and say that it's really interesting to look at the OECD report on skills for the future. There's a report on skills for 2030. And what makes me so happy is that it's not only about knowledge, it's not only about competence, but it's equally as much about values and attitudes. And in the competence field, it's not only about competencies that we traditionally see as hard skill competencies, but it's actually about the skills that we see as these meta skills. And there's a lot of different ones I think are really important, but if I would just focus on three, it's adaptability, as I said. It's resilience, because we will fail. We will fail so many times. And how do you create a resistance in failure and the ability to kind of quickly pick yourself up again and try again and continue to try and test, for example, using a new technology or adapting your business towards a transformation that's coming your way. So that resilience, and then elevated collaboration skills. And why I say that is because we really have to be able to discuss as humans really complex challenges and complex problems. And that requires us to be able to collaborate, communicate, actively listen to others that might have very different viewpoints and come from very different backgrounds. And the workforce will be more diverse, and we will be working in a hybrid setting, I believe. So that's why these are three of these skills that I believe are really crucial for people to get ahead and to stay relevant and to be part of what's coming in the new.
Yeah, and in order to stay ahead, what are effective ways that people can develop those skills?
Yeah, usually you have to find ways to actually practice. So of course, there's a lot out there that you can do and read up on, but I'm just going to give a very practical tool. And if we have an amazing toolbox at Hyperon, it's out there. It's out there for everybody. And one easy way might be just to challenge yourself and using one of these tools. Both, it could be really focusing on training your active listening muscle, or training your team to have different conversations. We have a tool for that that's called Stinky Fish. And that's a great way of actually starting to build resilience in your team by addressing things that we fear. And it's usually fear of failure in some way. So I think there are a lot of quite easy ways to at least start and try something new. So I recommend that. Just be brave and try a tool.
I love it. So it's about using tools that you can explore, and that with that you will develop those skills.
Yes.
You and also in your teams.
Yes, exactly. Because these skills are hard to develop.
Exactly.
So if you have a framework or you have a tool, you have something concrete you can test, it's easier. It's easier to put yourself as a leader, for example, or your team in that context of actually challenging the way you work, you learn, you collaborate through using some of these tools.
Yeah. And if we also touched upon leadership, and what are let's say the three strategies for leaders, for them to stay ahead and also to enable their teams to thrive?
Yeah. It's being brave enough to say, I don't know. Because that creates a space for others. And in that space, in that void, that's when things happen. If you as a leader, if you have a need to constantly fill that space, you will not enable others. So, and that requires courage to say, I don't know, I don't have the answer. So that is one really important way, but also recognizing that you also have to be able to create a culture where it's okay to fail. it's completely fine to fail. We all fail. And how do you ensure that? Of course, we shouldn't. No leader wants to fail through their teams in a way that will really hurt the business. So it's also about creating a system so that we are allowed to fail, but it will not have dire impacts on who we are and what we do. And creating a culture of openness and trust, because that will definitely enhance creativity. And that's what we need in the future.
And you know what? And what I like about the second point that you mentioned is about having more experiments, having more prototypes, so that you fail, but you fail fast and small, but you keep learning and you keep improving. And I think that is huge. It can help a lot of leaders.
Exactly. And that's where the reflection comes in.
Yes.
What did we learn from our failures?
Good. We're coming to the end. I would like if we reflect back to our conversation, what is one takeaway that you would like people to have from this conversation?
Oh, I love that question. What I really would like, I'm going to phrase it like this. What I really would like to see more of in leaders, in managers, in teams, in learners is braveness, courage, and curiosity. So I think this is something I really hope that your listeners will take away and will also reflect on: how brave am I? And how can I be more curious?
I love it. Thank you so much for coming. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I love the conversation with you, and I loved your amazing questions. It really sparks a lot of thought as well for me. Thank you.